I thought today was going to be actual technology day, but before I do that, and that will probably be tomorrow, what I wanted to do is offer my experience, right? Because no matter how amazing or exciting the technology sounds, it's results and people's personal experiences that matter. So, um, I have had high blood pressure for about actually after my son was born, so about 25 years. It happened when I was pregnant with him, and it kind of just never regulated itself. Before that, it used to be on the low side. I never had an issue. But I was hypertensive during my pregnancy, and I left it untreated. I mean, it was always just a little high, not enough to really warrant anything. Then I went through a separation and divorce, and I knew I felt off and I couldn't figure out what it is. And my former employer said, we're going to the drugstore, and literally sat me in one of those drugstore cuffs. And it was high enough that I was in danger of a stroke. So I went to my regular physician, and of course they put me on a low dose of losartan, which is a typical beta blocker. And I didn't even think about it because I did not understand anything about anything yet, right? My rebirth kind of started in the rubble of my marriage. That's when I started to kind of question the things. I had put myself to sleep for so long, and now I needed to be reborn, not just a partner, but myself. And what does that require? What does that look like? What do I want? I mean, things I hadn't asked myself in decades. So my hypertension is the thing that remained a constant. And I did things like cleanses to try to get off it. I had pretty dialed in diet and exercise, but I would taper off. I'd go finally be off it. It would hold for a few days and creep back up. So I was able to reduce my dosage quite a bit, but I was never able to get off it. And meanwhile, healing is not just one facet. And I knew that there was some healing around my marriage and the wound of kind of the failure of my marriage. I had a tattooed wedding ring. I definitely didn't think divorce was in the cards for me. But what I came to find is that the wound that really needed to be healed wasn't my marriage. It was that I was projecting my need for safety and security and just clean boundary onto my ex. He was supposed to provide it for me. And because that's not another human's job to do for you, he would always fail and disappoint me. And I was really martyred. And I didn't understand that subconsciously that was a theme running throughout all of the facets of my life. It was at the core of my limiting beliefs. It was someone else has to take care of me. I'm helpless. No matter how much I was able to prove to myself in the world that I'm on my own, I'm doing great, my son is thriving, there still the wound was gaping, and it was there. And as I started to do the personal work to face it, I knew I needed to heal the man inside me so that my own masculine would start to take the mantle of taking care of me over. So this work is going on simultaneously while I'm trying all different avenues under the guise of a naturopath, to try to relegate and really get my blood pressure under control. So then I have an experience with the technology, and I was a very early adapter. I was one of the first people to use it, and I was very, very faithful in my visits. And really what it does is I would always, it's really shaped like a chair that you sit in. It produces the field that we'll talk about next time, the exact way that it works. But it's the field that I've spoken of before. It's the field of containment. It's the field of a vibration. And it puts you, even if you're not a meditator, it puts you in an ease of a meditative state. Here's what it did for me. It allowed the ego that protects us and governs most of our functioning to lift off. And I was able to see the raw trauma underneath it, but from a safe distance. So like that kind of EMDR experience where you're revisiting the trauma, but it's not reacting. It's not acting back up, being reactivated by the tissues in your body. You're able to view it from a vantage point where you're not activated. And in this period of meditative, almost a trance-like state, I had a visit from my father. My father passed away in 2000, and we had a really tight, close relationship. And my father's with me every day. But this was a visceral feeling of his physical body. I could smell him. He had giant hands. I could feel his hand on my head. His whole palm could cover the top of my head, and he used to hold the top of my head. And what I got without words, what was downloaded to me was, until you are able to let someone love you without fear, your heart is going to be constricted. It's going to hold back. And it's going to literally constrict the blood that flows through your body. And I was more than moved. It was like deeper than tears. I could feel myself cellularly realigning. And I continued, but that was the one visit in the chair that, after careful watching and careful reduction of my blood pressure medication, that again, I had been on for 20 years, trying to take breaks and really not doing well. I have not had any blood pressure medication. It probably is coming up on a year now. My blood pressure is steady. It does not fluctuate. It doesn't, it used to spike when I was under stress. It doesn't do that anymore. Now, some of that is being able to handle my stress better. Some of that is uncovering the emotional wounds that affect our physical systems and body. And some of that is the ability of the chair to allow you to almost do your own emotional brain surgery on your wounds. And when you're able to affect your wounds on a soul and heart and mind level, your body will follow suit. You've already changed the synapse in your brain. Your chemical makeup has altered. And that's followed by the pattern in your body. My body was finally ready to let that pattern go. So how that happened will be tomorrow's video. But today I wanted to show you not just a results-based thing, but an experience that I had that was so healing. It has touched every facet of my life. It made me less afraid to be loving, and it made me less afraid to be loved. And what goes with that? The feeling of knowing that you are worthy to be loved. The feeling of knowing that you deserve a beautiful life where you give yourself grace as well as everyone around you. All of those things root from this experience that I had. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. And tomorrow we'll talk about the actual mechanics of the quantum-based and Tesla-based technology and how it is able to produce that field that make those profound changes, that put you in that malleable mindset, that allow you to touch pieces of yourself and start to truly heal. I will see you tomorrow.